It was announced on social media John Cornyn is officially running for Senate to maintain his Senate seat in 2026. Not a big shocker there. Great coincidence, though. I have a guy who's going to be running against him. Meet Alexander Duncan. Welcome to the James Show, Alex.
Hey, James, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
All right, so no one knows you, and that's all right. We're all going to get to know you together here. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why we should choose you over John Cornyn.
Yes, sir. So my name's Alexander Duncan, and I'm a proud Texan by choice. You know, I was born and raised in California, unfortunately, where I spent 13 years serving as a police officer.
It's not a good sign, sir. It's not a good start.
No, I know. But, you know, I spent 13 years serving as a police officer, and I followed in my father's footsteps. He did that job for 34 years out there. So I come from a hardworking, blue-collar, conservative family, and I was always raised to believe in law and order and the Constitution and the values that built this country. But, you know, unfortunately, as we've seen, the radical left took over California, and they destroyed, you know, essentially everything around me. The crime soared out there. Businesses were shut down. Faith and family were abandoned. And the government just crushed freedom at every chance they got. So it was one of those things I knew I could no longer raise my family in a state such as that. So, you know, I chose Texas, the state that represents everything that America was meant to be. You know, Texas is strong, independent, self-reliant, and free. And Texas is essentially the last beacon of liberty in this country. You know, a place where faith still matters, where families come first, and where the Constitution isn't up for debate. So I moved here because I believe Texas was the last great hope for America. But after moving here, I quickly learned that even here, the radical left is slowly creeping in, and we have weak Republicans like John Cornyn who are helping them do it. So instead of standing up for Texans, he's voting for gun control. He's refusing to secure the border, and he's sold out to D.C. for a long time. You know, and I just want to tell all the listeners, I didn't come here to change Texas at all. I came here for what Texas represents, and I want to protect that at all costs. So that's exactly where I'm running for Senate. I want to defend our border, and I want to protect our Second Amendment with no compromise. I want to help unleash Texas energy, and essentially I wanted to stop the left from turning the state into the next California.
So on what policy are you different than Cornyn?
Oh, man, where do I start? I'm against all foreign aid, which he loved to approve sending billions of our tax dollars over to Ukraine all these years. I'm anti any gun legislation, which, you know, he backed the Safer Communities Act, which implemented red flag laws, which I'm strictly against. So I would say those are the two biggest. And, you know, now Cornyn is posturing to say he's pro-Trump, but we've known all these years he's been anti-Trump from the very beginning.
So there's another guy who we think might get in the race against John Cornyn. That's Attorney General Ken Paxton. Are you concerned that if he gets into the race, we may split the anti-Cornyn vote and end up with another turd?
You know, that's always something to consider. And if it got to that point, I'm going to actually back the strongest candidate because I want to see Cornyn gone. So if that's Paxton, then I'm going to fully support him when that time comes because we need someone to defeat Cornyn.
Wow. Okay.
Texas values.
So one of the issues that you've been championing online is civil asset forfeiture. I'm not even sure if everybody knows what that means, but, you know, for my little libertarian reading circles, this is something that is a big concern to people who are deep into politics. But for people who only have a shallow look at politics, how do you explain this issue to them?
It's basically government theft. Before you've been convicted of any crime, the government could essentially come in and just take your property and they'll, you know, quote unquote, deem it fruits of whatever crime you're alleged to have commit. But there's no evidence. There's no, you know, court process.
Right. So common people, the way you usually see this is if someone gets arrested and they have cocaine in their pocket, they'll keep their car, or they'll keep all the cash they find. And even if they're found innocent, it takes months to get it back. And sometimes they don't always get it back. And so they're really quick to just take private property for people before they go through the due process. And so for a lot of civil libertarians, I mean that with a lowercase L, not uppercase L, Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians, there's a chunk of each one of those parties that's against civil asset forfeiture. Although I suspect for different reasons, we're all kind of on the same side there. What would you do about that, though? How would you stop that?
You know, I think it has to go through the court system first. I think law enforcement needs to show that these items came from, you know, fruits of the crime first before they seize it. If they think your car is paid for by, let's use your example, selling cocaine, Well, show us the evidence and then seize the car. Don't seize it beforehand and then make, someone that's proven innocent fight to get that back.
Yeah, I like that issue because I have a lot of Democrat friends who agree with that, some Republican friends who agree with that. So that's a good one to start with. Best of luck to you. I don't care who unseats him. The fewer rhinos up in D.C. or Austin, the better. So, Alex Duncan, thanks for introducing yourself to the WBAP audience, and keep us updated on your run.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. If you want to go check out more about him or look at his merch or some of his other issues, DuncanForSenate.com. DuncanForSenate.com. Coming up next, here in North Texas, there was a DoorDash driver who stole a bunch of clothes off the front porch. If that doesn't make any sense, it probably still won't after I explain it to you, but I'll still explain it to you coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. For this segment, though, we can just chalk this one up to, man, some humans are just strange. WFAA has the story of a DoorDasher who stole some dude's laundry. All right, listen to yourself. WFAA.
A DoorDash driver went off menu.
Normally, the laundry person comes and picks up our laundry.
First off, solid pun to start off there, WFAA. Just dad joke vibes, just bleh. Get it? Because we went off the menu?
A DoorDash driver went off menu.
Normally, the laundry person comes and picks up our laundry from the front porch. This time, though, the DoorDash person walked off with the laundry instead.
Yeah, this one, a head scratcher. Hooten ordered some coffee through DoorDash before his son's baseball game over the weekend. 3 bags of his family's dirty clothes outside, waiting to get picked up by a laundry service when his dasher showed up. We're blurring her face because she hasn't been charged with a crime yet. She drops off the drinks, takes a picture, but then takes 2 of the bags and then returns for the 3rd before driving away.
The laundry person called us asking where the laundry was. And so we went back and looked at the doorbell camera, and that's when we saw that the DoorDash person took it with her.
Brett filed the police report with Flower Mound PD and also let DoorDash know about what happened. He told us that they told him they can't get in contact with the driver any longer, that her phone doesn't work, and offered him a $10 credit.
In Flower Mound, I'm Matt Howerton.
What the heck is that about? What are you going to do with 3 giant bags of clothes? All right, maybe the wife in there of this household might have some laundry that fits you, but if not, there's nothing in there you can wear, so you're just stealing some family's clothes. And judging by the size of the DoorDash driver, none of that stuff's going to fit you, lady. None of that. Man, you maybe need to do DoorDash on a 10-speed before you can fit into some of those clothes. I don't get this. I don't get the clothes stealing people. There was that weirdo, the bald-headed guy with the mustache and the lipstick that would steal the clothes from airports and then wear other women's clothes out in public, and he got busted. He was like our handling the nuclear secrets or whatever. Remember that dude, Sam Brinton? Who steals clothes? There's not a secondary market for that. You can't go fence some guy's suits. You can't go fence some guy's, Dallas Cowboys T-shirts or sweatshirt or Bucky shirt or whatever. There's not a secondary market. What are you going to do? Go drop it off at Goodwill? Stuff that doesn't fit? There's no crackheads out there. Oh, I don't get it. I don't get these people. I don't understand. Like, you just see a pile of clothes, or it's in 3 giant bags. So I am floored by that. On the flip side, there's this dude who lives in a pretty opulent looking house. It's newer than my house. It's quite a bit bigger than my house, a better neighborhood, probably about 3 times the cost of my house. This dude has a laundry service? What level of opulence is this? Like, he's not like rich. He's still driving a Ford or whatever. He lives in a neighborhood in Frisco, but he has people do his own laundry for it. They come to the house and they pick it up and they go do it and they bring it back and drop it off. Oh, man, don't let Miss Parker hear that. She'd probably order it immediately. What a nice life some people get to lead here, And look, like I said, he's not a guy in a Bentley. He doesn't have a private jet. There's not like a giant fountain in a circle driveway in his mansion. But, man, I don't need to be rich, but I would like to be rich enough to have a laundry service. My third bullet point on this weird story is how this gig economy has just opened us up to letting absolute strangers with the minimal amount of vetting into our very close personal spaces. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What did Jasmine Crockett say this time? She has been the loudest voice since the inauguration on Team Blue. And they apparently like her because she keeps getting invited to bigger and bigger stages. You know, she's been now on the Sunday talk shows, and she's been interviewed on all the big networks, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS. So she's getting a lot of attention. And the one that has a lot of people talking right now is what she said yesterday. Tomorrow, we're all going to be talking about what she said right before the James show started. But before I tell you what crazy things she said today, let's go ahead and pick it up with yesterday. This was the Hot Wheels comment about Governor Greg Abbott, if you hadn't heard this already.
Because we in these hot-ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot-ass mess, honey. So,
I like it when she calls me honey. The guy who has what I think is just the greatest job in the world, Scott Jennings. He's the lone dissenting voice on CNN. He's sitting at a table last night. This is what I dream about. He's at a table with 4 people who disagree with him, and they've got to talk about Jasmine Crockett. And so, I mean, he's got to be loving this.
I don't know how the Democrats came to appoint Jasmine Crockett as the unquestioned leader of your party, but thank God. And I think what she should do is go on TV twice as much as she is right now, maybe 3 times as much, because every time she appears and makes one of these mistakes, says something radical, it only further divides her party from the rest of the other 80% of America who can't stand this. But the problem is there's an audience for it. I heard Jimmy Kimmel's audience cheering on Tesla vandalism. I hear the Daily Show audience cheering on attacks on Elon Musk. I hear the human rights audience cheering on an attack on a man in a wheelchair. And I realize this is what the left has become. An angry mob of people who are cheering on attacks on a guy in a wheelchair and vandalism against people who bought a Tesla. It's pathetic.
Okay, so here's the actual update on that story now that you're all caught up. There's a Republican congressman from the Houston area, Randy Weber. He told Newsmax that he's passing around trying to get enough signatures on a petition to censure Jasmine Crockett. Now, censure is one of the lamest things possible, but there's not a whole lot of punishment mechanisms that are afforded in the House of Representatives. And so censure is like the worst thing you can do besides kick them out. And what is it? It's nothing. It's like, we vote to censure you. Okay, so what happens? Nothing. We just censored you. So there's just like, what, a stain on my reputation? Ooh, you got me so good. So I don't think this is like an important piece of legislation that we all need to champion and get behind here. This is like a goofy afterthought that just has some PR tinges to it. But the fun doesn't stop there. Today, they were having one of the Doge committee hearings, and they were debating PBS and NPR funding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. One thing that I absolutely despise, and I think it's a no-brainer that it should be shut down immediately. It should have never started to begin with. Hey, let's have government propaganda. Well, we can't call it that. Well, let's fund a station and let them be independent nonprofits. Okay, but the funding's coming from government, so won't it be kind of a pro-government sort of slant to it? Shut up. Right? That's sort of the argument. And so there's no surprise here that whether you're on PBS or NPR, with some exceptions in there, it definitely has a slant toward big government, toward the elites, toward pro-DC solutions for so many of the problems out there. Now, there are a lot of people having fun. Before I play you Jasmine Crockett, I just want to give you the setting for what was happening in this hearing. Brandon Gill, who is a representative out of the Denton area, had Carolyn Mayer, she'd been on before, and he was grilling her about some of her past tweets, having to do with white supremacy, white people are evil, reparations, things like that, to prove
that
bias.
America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context.
A bunch of her thinking has evolved over the last half decade. These are tweets she did in 2020, y'all. This isn't like the ancient. This isn't some, misspent college youth.
So I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently.
He goes through and he does that for like reparations and a whole bunch of not just lefty points, but like far fringe lefty points. And look, I'm not sure if that's the right way to go about it. I don't need for NPR and PBS to disagree with me politically to know that philosophically speaking, they should not exist. We should not be spending taxpayer money on Sesame Street. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But it was that debate there that was being had where Jasmine Crockett sweeps in and tries to defend Miss Mayor. And she doesn't think very highly about rural Americans. Check this out. And I'm a guy who is a rural American, born and raised out in the middle of nowhere, East Texas. Kind of still have a house out there. So, I feel like she's talking about kind of me.
Americans in rural communities would lack access to life-saving information and public safety alerts.
That is correct.
So in your opinion, would eliminating funding for stations in rural America like WNGH, Channel 18, and the Chairwoman's District hurt Americans?
It would hurt Americans, yes.
All right, let me tell you a little secret of the pros here. Where I grew up, you know how many NPR stations can reach our radio antennas? 0. Do you know how many PBS stations can reach my TV antenna? 0. Even in the fantasy that we could. What America is she imagining in her head? Where me and a bunch of my big, dumb hayseed friends are out trotting through the woods, wearing our camo, doing dumb stuff, shooting beer cans, farting wildly, and an emergency comes. We're like, quick, turn on PBS. We got to see what Big Bird has to say. Or quick, turn on NPR. We have no other way of communicating with the outside world. We get cell phone signals out there. We'll be just fine. We can keep up with the news. There's still 400 other channels on TV without that one. There's still God knows how many radio stations, depending on where you're standing at any time, that fall all over themselves to give you emergency news. Without publicly funding NPR and PBS, rural people would be lost in an emergency. Really? That's an interesting take you got there. Boy, I guess you really put me in my place. So keep funding it then, right? We don't want rural people to die without their precious NPR. Who do you think's listening? Like the exact opposite audience is listening to NPR. Not Team Red flyover state rural people. It's bourgeois awfuls in the big city, probably over in like Highland Park or Denton, or I know where you people are. So that's what she said today. We'll probably be talking about that tomorrow. But the big question is, do you think she should be censured? Can we keep Jasmine Crockett on TV as much as possible? Do you think she's hurting more than she's helping? Did you see the viral video that was going around at the end of last week, beginning of this week? It's here in the WBAP listening area in North Texas. There's Millsap ISD. And some special needs kids were being smacked around. And I don't mean that in a fun way. You know, sometimes, if you see a kid getting spanked in the store, you're like, man, what did he do? And you're on the side of the adult that's meting out the discipline. But this was not disciplinary. This was far beyond the pale, not funny, not cool in any form or fashion. This looked like some straight up abuse. Well, Aaron Anderson's coming on from the Texas Scorecard. I mean, you guys do a better job than anyone of keeping track of some of these bad apple teachers. This was a really disturbing video, and the fact that there's 2 adults and neither one was stopping the other from mistreating these kids. Where did y'all how did we get this disturbing video to begin with, Aaron?
Well, thanks for having me on to talk about this, James. It really is a horrifying story. And before I delve into it, what I want your listeners to understand is that the type of abuse that was revealed in these videos and in this case is going on in school districts all across the state. What happened in Millsap ISD, this is a little bitty town, a 3-school district, very small, was that there was some physical and verbal abuse going on in these special ed classrooms in the elementary school. So one brave whistleblower, a staff member in the school, recorded on her phone video of these 2 special ed teachers, as you said, smacking around, for want of a better term, this autistic 10-year-old boy. And the whistleblower reported it to the school superintendent, who said, we'll take care of it, we'll investigate. In fact, they had like an outside investigator come in, that they did not, as required by law, report it to police or Child Protective Services. So time goes by. The whistleblower teacher goes back to the superintendent and said, well, where are we with this? And she says, oh, no worries, we're taking care of it. And the superintendent then says, by the way, we're going to need you to delete those videos off your phone. She wanted her to do it right then. She said, oh, well, those are records. She says, I've got them now. We're on top of it. Delete those off your phone. Well, this whistleblower was audio recording this conversation. They took the whistleblower and a couple other people that had seen this, took all this information then to the Parker County Sheriff's Office. Parker County is where this district is located, and gave them all their information, their testimony, their evidence. And to the sheriff's credit, they investigated, they followed up, and they ended up arresting the 2 teachers and the superintendent for failure to report, which is a felony.
Okay, so you say that this is happening everywhere, and then almost in an echo, there's a guy over here on YouTube that left a comment. Smacky says, this is happening everywhere. Why do y'all say that with such confidence?
Well, I can say it with such confidence because I hear from parents all day, every day, telling me about it. We've seen multiple cases. There are multiple grievances and lawsuits going on in multiple districts across the state. I've heard multiple stories from this school district. And in fact, the mom of this boy that was on this video, which then got released after the whistleblowers realized that the district wasn't going to really do anything, that they were afraid it was going to get swept under the rug, right? This video came out and it got shared on social media. And as heartbreaking as it is for this mom to see, her child, over and over repeated abuse like this, if people don't see it, they can't really believe it. They don't think this could really be happening in our schools. These are our nice teachers, our neighbors. They love our kids. This couldn't happen, or somebody would stop it, right, if this was happening. But oh no. But we've seen a lot of cases, and in fact, Scorecard has reported on many of them.
Yep.
And in particular in these special education classrooms. And it's a tough calling to be a special needs teacher. But you've got to have you've got to be able to do it. The parents are trusting you, the taxpayers are trusting you, and if you can't do it, you need to be out. And the administration in that district needs to be overseeing and supervising this, and not sweeping it under the rug, which is what was going to happen in Millsap if this video had not gone viral on social media. This 100% would have been swept under the rug.
Well, all parents that see this video, they probably internalize it and say, well, what if that was my kid being slapped on the head like that? You better not have a video of anyone slapping my kid on the head like that, because I'm going to be slapping you in the head like that. Great reporting there, Aaron Anderson. Thank you for all the details and the backstory. I appreciate your work from Texas Scorecard.
Well, thanks for having me on, James. I appreciate it.
TexasScorecard.com. Y'all, I tell you, that's one of the sites you need to be going to on a regular basis. Dallas Express, Current Revolt, Texas Scorecard. Just follow me for all the good blogs. Whew, did you see that video? What do you think should happen to those teachers? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Because that looks 100% felonious to me. Coming up next, I can't believe this Signal Chat story is getting so much attention, but I think that's a great sign that tells you how successful the Trump administration is going now, that they're focused on this. Not the price of eggs, not the price of gas, not the Russian ceasefire, not anything else foreign policy. I think it's a really good sign. We'll break it down next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.